Hello, everyone, and welcome into our episode on back to school routines. I'm your host, Valerie, and as a reminder, the information provided during this event is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions regarding medical conditions or treatment plans, please consult your physician. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with our episode today. Joining me is the amazing Dr. Shaina Rogers, a pediatrician and site lead at Providence Medical Group Pediatrics in Missoula, Montana. And we are just so thrilled to have you here with us today, Dr. Rogers. Would love to just have you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what your role is here at Providence.
Awesome. Thanks, Valerie. I am Shaina Rogers. I'm, like you said, a pediatrician with Providence at Providence Medical Group Pediatrics in Missoula, Montana. I'm a pediatrician and also the site lead here. So I love caring for my patients and working with families. And then as the site lead, I help oversee the clinical side of clinic and take care of our team. And I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, we're here to talk all about back to school. As I was mentioning to some folks earlier, can't believe that we are just cruising right into September. Goodness. So would love to have you kind of help. And I know this is, the talk of the town a little bit lately in regards to routine, as far as what a basic back to school routine for kids and children maybe should look like. So would kind of love to have you start with, the night before and then continuing into the next morning. What should that kind of look like?
I'm happy to talk through that. And this is, just like you said, a really common conversation that we're having with families right now. I actually think this is a really exciting time of year, where kids and families are hopeful about what the next school year will come, what will come with the next school year. But it's also important to remember that that isn't everybody's experience. But I think that's part of why it's really important for us to have conversations like this, so we can talk through a few pearls that will hopefully help people feel more comfortable and confident coming into the school year. And I think regardless of your child's age or grade, preparation is going to be our biggest friend here or be the most helpful thing. In an ideal world, we've looked at the school calendar ahead of time, and it might feel silly, but knowing, what day school starts and what time the bell rings and what time school actually starts, when is pickup, are we doing full days, are we doing half days, just having a good grasp of, what the day and what the week will look like. It's also great if you have the time and ability to do your school supply shopping a few days in advance. So that way we're not running feverishly to the store looking for glue sticks, the night before. I always try and encourage families just to be as, prepared and packed up and ready to go the night before as much as possible. So that way we can make the morning as smooth and seamless as possible. So that includes school supplies, and if your child is bringing a lunch or snack to school, making sure we have that, set out with a water bottle. And then another really important part of the night before is sleep. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but making sure that we have a set routine and a set bedtime, and that we're consistently enforcing that will be an important part of setting your child up for success once the school day starts. So we want to get a good night's sleep. We want to be all packed up and ready to go. And then when we, wake up in the morning, we have a good, healthy breakfast and we can hit the ground running.
Yeah. Gosh, those are some awesome tips. And, the sleep piece, I feel like is so important for all of us. So not just the little ones, but parents.
Absolutely.
So that's a really good reminder. As we're approaching September, just being right around the corner here, what's kind of the easiest and best way to maybe ease kids into that routine? So in other words, should parents kind of start doing that now and establishing some of those things versus just jumping all, full force into it, starting the first day of school? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I think this is a great question that a lot of parents are asking as well. And in an ideal world, we would start to transition back into what we would consider to be a normal, school day schedule a week or two ahead of time. And this will give us some time to get used to the new rhythm or the new routine, and also helps kids adjust. And it's really difficult for kids to do in kind of an overnight transition with wake up time and going to bed time. So it's nice, if possible, if we can kind of ease our way in. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you could always do a little trial run where we practice, having everything set out, getting packed up, going to school, and that way we can figure out, timing, and hey, do we need to allot a little bit more time here, or are we good to go? So I think for your sanity as a parent, and then also for your child's purposes, it's really nice to try and ease that transition over the course of a couple of weeks if possible.
Yeah, gosh, I remember my parents kind of easing me into earlier bedtimes when I was approaching back to school, and I think that was partially for their sanity, as you mentioned.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
and it's nice too, just to I know my son is not a big fan of going to bed a little bit earlier, but we talk together about why it's important. And I want him to get a good night's sleep so that he is rested and ready to have a great day. And we get up in the morning and we have a good healthy breakfast, so that way he is ready to go for a good, successful day as well. And just trying to frame it as we're on the same team, and we're trying to have a great day together. Sometimes that can help a little bit to get buy-in from our kids who may not be thrilled about the change.
Oh, I like that. I like how you framed it that way, where you're getting buy-in from them and that you're on the same team and we're doing this together. That's really good. I like that tip. So take note for our listeners out there. And then, so, with that, do some of these routines, do you kind of suggest that they vary based on age? I know, as kids get older and go into different grade levels, that things maybe will shift a little bit.
And this can be really tricky. Like here in Montana right now, even the start and end of the school day is really staggered for elementary school kids versus middle school kids versus high school kids. So that in itself can be kind of tricky. Regardless of your child's age and grade, though, I love the idea of having this routine and, having a normal course of action for the day that'll help things to run smoothly, and so we don't forget anything. But I do think that there are some special accommodations or things to consider with different ages. So especially for our kindergartners who might be going to formal schooling for the first time ever, it can be a really nerve-wracking experience, or kids can feel a little bit anxious with that. So, and the same could be true for kids that are, moving and are going to a new school for the first time. So here, I think anything that we can do to frame the school year and the day in a positive light is really important. So for kindergarten, for instance, here, we have a kindergarten roundup or an open house. And I think that that's a really great thing for families to go to, especially if their kids are feeling a little nervous. So they can go and see where they're going to be going to school, and hopefully see their classroom and meet their teacher, or maybe even meet other kids in their class. And I think that can lend some familiarity, to the experience, and hopefully to help kids feel more comfortable, as they're walking into a new situation. And the same again goes for kids that are going to a new school. So I like to try and encourage families to participate in those activities if possible. And going to the other end of the school age spectrum, if we're talking about our teenage patients, for those kids, we might need a little bit more like reminders as far as, do we have our homework, or when do we have big tests or projects due, things like that. So we want to be sure that we are incorporating as part of the routine, time to be doing homework, also time if they're participating in any sports or band or other after school activities. I think we need to be really thoughtful in how we're approaching that and how we're trying to make everybody's schedule, tailored to their specific family. So trying to empower your teen to, take responsibility and be independent, but also be providing support if they may need a little bit of guidance or accountability help there.
Yeah. I like that, kind of empowering them a little bit, but as you said, that positive support is always so important, right?
Absolutely.
So about kids that sometimes struggle with completing tasks. This question is kind of, around those that maybe might want a reminder or kind of need some of that push as far as how do we make sure that we're following up with them on getting done what they need to get done. And so this reminds me of different learning styles. I know I was very different from my brother when we were growing up. And one of us, I'm not going to say which, was very delinquent and always late to turning things in. And so that's where this question is coming from is, kids that maybe struggle with completing tasks. Like, is there an easy way to set some of those reminders and help them?
I think our last question actually kind of dovetails really nicely into this. And, it may vary depending on your child's age as well. Like I know for our elementary students, you get an agenda or a planner that goes with your child to school and comes home as well. And sometimes that can include writing a sentence or, checking off a box for homework or writing down, we read, X number of minutes overnight. So that way we're communicating with teacher. It can also be a great way for the teacher to be sending reminders home, hey, this is due on, this particular day. Please make sure you send your child with this work. I tend to be a little bit more, proactive and hands-on with our younger patients who probably need, more reminders and parents check in the planner or agenda once a day. For our older kids, I think we can really tailor that. Just like you said, everybody's a little bit different and tailoring it to your child's specific needs. I definitely have some teenage patients that are like, hey, I got this, I don't need any help. And then we have some kids that may need more frequent reminders. And I think having an open talk with that child about what is going to work best for you. Some families will have a whiteboard at home, and at least for like bigger projects or big tests or things like that, we can write them on the board. Some kids prefer, just having a planner or a checklist that they keep for themselves. But I think just having a conversation with your child, about what's going to work best for him or for her can be really helpful. And, as we're talking about buy-in again, I think that can be really great because what works for me, may not work for my son. And we want to be sure that we're setting him up for success and again, empowering him, but also, providing support and reminders where needed. So I think whatever is going to work best for families is the right way to go. And talking with your child is the best way to figure out, what's going to work best for them.
Yeah. Gosh, I really like that communication piece, and then gaining that buy-in is so big because then they have that bit of ownership in it, right?
Exactly. And then I think when they, they complete tasks and they follow through, there can be a lot of good, pride that comes with that. And then as parents, we can positively reinforce that and encourage future good behavior habits as well.
Yeah, definitely. I love that because then it feels like it came from them. They feel good about completing it. So it's a win all the way around. Yeah. So should routines kind of be the same every day, do you recommend, or should parents occasionally kind of mix it up a bit? And I think there might be a couple trains of thought on this, but would love your take.
Absolutely. So I think in the rule book answer, the recommendation is that we want to try and maintain that routine as much as possible. And that consistency will be key. It makes it easier to be falling asleep at the same time every night. And it makes it easier to, get up in the morning. But man, like on the weekends or on holidays or special occasions, I know that can be a tougher sell. So I think that there's probably happy compromise there where we're trying, as best we can to maintain that, same routine and same schedule, but also with some wiggle room for when life happens or again, when we're on holiday or vacation. I know I tend to be a little bit more lax in the summer, as long as we're still, doing our work and everything. But that kind of ties back into what we were talking about earlier about trying to, transition ideally over the course of a week or two back into that routine. So that way we can ease our kids in there and hopefully be consistent over time. Because I think it's a happy balance. I don't want families to be too rigid because life happens, but as much as we can maintain that consistency, I think the better off we'll all be.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I keep thinking too about myself when we're having this conversation and how much routine actually benefits me. So
Me too.
it's a good reminder of that consistency and how much healthier I tend to feel when I follow it, generally speaking, as you were saying. So in regards to homework, I would love your opinion on this. And so with kids bringing homework home, do you feel that it's best for them to complete that homework immediately right when they get home so it's kind of fresh in their mind, or should they have kind of a break and then get to it after dinner?
So often I feel like our kids are working so hard, during the day, and they're following directions and following rules and, teachers' recommendations and everything. So, my opinion is that kids, would benefit from having a little break at home, and that may include a snack, that may include time just to run around and kind of get the wiggles out. But I like to have kids have a little bit of a break before we're diving into homework. Other things to consider, for your child when they're doing homework at home, it's really nice to have a designated quiet area where your child can be doing homework. We want to be setting them up for success there. We don't want screens around or really anything else that could function as a distraction. So we want a set place where your child can focus and get work done when they need to. And I think this is a little bit more challenging for our, older kids that are having the after school activities or sports or, things like that, where we're trying to find a space for everything. So maybe we allow them to come home from school. We have a little bit of a break, have a snack. We can try and do homework. And then if we're going to sports practice or piano lessons or things like that, we can transition into that as well. But we definitely want to be thoughtful as parents about how we're planning our, our kids' time and making sure that there's time for, moving their bodies and exercise and time for homework, and then also time to decompress before bed. So I would try and give them a little bit of a break, but then also talking through, hey, how are things looking for tonight? Do we have a lot of work? Do we have just a little bit of a work? And then trying to be on the same page with, getting the work done, but then also still getting to bed on time.
Yeah. It's all a balance, isn't it?
It definitely is. And we may have to be flexible. I know we're talking so much about routine, but, sometimes we need to be flexible day to day, and our activities may change, over the course of the week, but we'll just try to do the best that we can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of leading in from that question, we were talking about, having dinner, giving kids a break. And so with that, we know that kids who eat meals with their families tend to eat healthier. There's a litany of benefits, right? Like they're more likely to get better grades, kind of have higher self-esteem. That dinner together with families is really important in certain regards. So how can parents try to incorporate this into their weekly routine? And, people are so busy these days, it can be a little bit challenging. So just would love your take on that.
Definitely. And I love this question because we are always talking about trying to do family mealtime as much as humanly possible. Because you are absolutely right. We know that kids and families tend to eat healthier, if they're sitting down together and eating as a family. But I also think there are so many benefits of eating dinner together. I do recommend that this be a screen-free time. So we try and encourage everybody to put their phones away, if at all possible during dinner or mealtime together. But it's also a great opportunity just to talk through your day and really kind of bond as a family, as sentimental as that might sound. But it's, time spent together, and it's so common. I feel like we ask our kids, so how was your day? And, they say fine. So it may take a little bit more, prying to get things out. I have one family tell me that when we were talking about family mealtime, that they talk about, I think the rose in the day of the day and like the bud or the thorn of the day. So they would have everybody in the family talk through like what was the, for the rose, like the best part of your day, like what was most fun or most exciting, or what were you most proud of? And then from the thorn perspective, like was there anything that was frustrating today or anything that you struggled with? And it can, little tips or tricks like that can be a nice way to try and encourage our kids to be talking more and cultivating that, positive family experience around the table. I also understand that, from a total family mealtime, that may not be practical for all of our families, right? We have parents that do shift work or work overnight, and so obviously we try and make it work as best as we can for our kids and their families. And I really prefer that kids are doing, in an ideal world, their activities more early evening, so that way they still have a chance to get home after and enjoy dinner before, so it's not right before they're going to bed. But if we're not able to do, like family mealtime in a traditional sense, this is another area where planning ahead can be really helpful. So, we want to have healthy snacks available at home or, in kids' backpacks, or if we're going to different activities, and then have something that would be really easy to either put together or warm up when kids get home from activities as well. And that'll help, hopefully, families to eat healthier and be less likely to stop for fast food or things like that on the way home. But, the struggle is real, and we just want to try and plan as much as we can, together, and to encourage us to be healthier as parents, and also to help our kids be healthy as well.
Yeah. We're coming on the fall, right? And so I feel like this is such a good time too, to brush up on those healthy recipes, maybe in the crock pot or like whatever
Exactly.
it is. Football season's coming. It's a good time, but also to keep that health in mind, that piece, because I know how easy it is to reach for the healthier options when they're there. So
exactly.
Yeah,
when they're like there and chopped up and like already, I think the easier it is to access, the better.
Oh yeah, definitely. I also loved what you said, and I'm gonna maybe steal it if you don't mind, is the rose analogy or the exercise at the dinner table. I like that a lot. The rose of the day and the thorn. And it's just such a good visual, but also is a better way to, open some conversation versus just how was your day?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm using that at home as well. So I thanked my parent for passing that along.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Or just even sometimes what I've started doing is, what are you most grateful for today?
I love that.
Yeah. Trying to do that even with friends. I ask, what are you grateful for today? And it's just kind of it sounds cheesy, but it's a good conversation starter. And then you end up talking about really, really important things. So
absolutely. Well, and even on the tough days, there's always something to be grateful for. So I think it can be a really nice way to, wrap the day up with something positive. So I like it too.
I'm glad. Well, I'm grateful for this conversation. I really am. So continuing on with some of these last few questions, kids that play sports, as you were saying, and this might be kind of a short response because you already touched on this, but routines with that. How can parents make sure that they're still in routine with their kids when they have ever-changing sports schedules?
I think, again, planning, as much as we can with, healthy snacks and having stuff available. It may not be a big traditional meal with the whole family at home, but just trying, as much as they can to have healthy snacks. And it may end up being a, small healthy meal, maybe with some protein before the sports activity and, another smaller meal afterwards. Because, if possible, we want to try and avoid having this big bolus of food, right before our kids are going to bed. But here, I think it's also helpful just to, maybe on Sunday, look at your family's schedule for the week and say, hey, okay, on this day, we're going to have this late activity. What can we do to make this work and still be healthy? But I also, kind of as an extension of this, I want parents to give themselves some grace because just like you said earlier, everything is busy right now. And I feel like kids are in so many activities and the volume of homework, is progressively increasing over time. And so if there's a day and we don't have time to plan ahead, then just do, what you can. If there's a way to go, maybe get sandwiches after practice or after practice instead of, going to get burgers or something like that. Just encourage families to do the best they can. But if it's a day where things aren't perfect, that's okay. And I want parents to cut themselves some slack too, because none of us are perfect and just do the best we can again.
Yeah, it's those little tweaks like what you're saying of maybe we go get a sandwich or maybe we have something small before and after your game or what have you, versus having a huge meal when you're starving right before bed. So I think that's a perfect way to say that. It's just kind of those little adjustments towards what we're going for, right?
Exactly.
And, with all of this back to school, I know I've had conversations with lots of parents kind of about screen time because I have a lot of friends that have kids. And so should children be allowed to, watch TV or use iPads or be on these screens, do you think, during the week? And if so, do you kind of recommend a certain limit on that screen time or what's some guidance there?
Yeah. So the American Academy of Pediatrics has some really great guidance in this area. And I know it's so hard right now because, schools are involving more screen time and it's just ever more present. But there are guidelines that we try, our best to adhere to. The AAP recommends ideally doing no screen time for kids from birth until 2 years of age. And I know there are a lot of educational shows, but it doesn't give kids the same reciprocal experience, compared to if we're talking with them. The TV doesn't give them feedback. So, I try and minimize, screen time for kids under 2 years of age. But I know we're talking about school age kids here. So, if we're in that 2 to 5 year age range, in an ideal world, we would try and cap our screen time at 1 hour a day, if possible. And then for our older kids, up through teens, the AAP recommends trying to keep our total screen time under 2 hours per day. And I like to remind families that is not just TV time, right? It's TV time and laptop time and tablet time and phone time and video games. And, all of those things are cumulatively, they're all part of screen time, and we want to be encouraging families to be minimizing, exposure as best that they can, with the understanding that there are going to be some things for school that may have to be done online. And if that's the case, that's okay. We just try and minimize the other time as best we can. also really try and encourage families to keep a really close eye on their kids, when they're on the internet. If you have one, you can always set, on tablets and phones, time restrictions. So, it's automatically going to turn off after an hour or 2 hours. And if you can, use some of the parental restrictions so your child can only access certain sites. And I think that's a really important part of making sure that our kids are, having internet safety. And it's been really sad. I've had a few patients kind of accidentally wander into areas where they didn't mean to be, and then were exposed to age inappropriate content, and want to try and prevent that as much as possible and keep our kids safe there. Yeah. I'm personally a little bit more strict about the screen time restrictions, which my son does not love. Again, it's all about trying to find a balance, and we try and really not do much screen time, just like you were saying, during the week. And then maybe we do something fun together, like we watch a movie as a family or something over the weekend. And the AP, actually, I should give a little plug in. They have a great tool through the AP website and healthychildren.org where you can create a family media plan. And it talks through like different age appropriate restrictions and tips and tricks, things like that, to help families create a good plan. And then as parents, we also need to be modeling, good screen time behavior as well. And that includes us not being on our phones if we can avoid it. And I really think that allows us to be more present for our kids and also set a good example for them.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. I like the media plan idea. I've known parents who have done meal plans for the week and they do that, but having the media plan too is a really great way. And then it's collaborative if you're doing it together with your kids.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a really good way to set yourself up for success. It sounds like maybe I need my own media plan. Note taken. So last question here for you, and then we'll wrap up. But how can parents keep some or all of the family's routine pretty active through the weekend? Because as we're talking, sometimes that's where things kind of go a little off the grid.
For sure. And I think there's a healthy balance here. It really starts with wake up time, and man, I would love to sleep in on the weekends, but it definitely makes it harder, as we come into the following week if we're not following that same routine. So, try as best you can to be getting up around the same time in the morning, and same thing goes with your nighttime routine and with bedtime. And, for kids that can include, bath or shower time and brushing and flossing teeth, obviously, and reading together and things like that. So just trying to be mindful of our time and trying to stay as close as we can to that schedule. Again, giving ourselves some grace and just trying to keep in mind that if we are, closely adhering to that schedule, it'll make our lives easier as we come into the next school week and the next work week for us as parents as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like what you were saying, the more you keep it active, it's probably the less work it is.
Exactly.
So just kind of start to naturally do it where you just don't even think about it as much. So I'm sure, the more we implement that, it'll help. Well, thank you for your thoughtful responses and just this wonderful conversation today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we wrap up today?
I think I always like to remind parents that, I am all about teaching our kids to dream big and, shoot for lofty goals. But I think it's really important as parents that we don't expect perfection from our kids. And I think the most important thing is that they feel safe and supported and loved, and that we just want them to do their best. And I think that's my kind of last takeaway from this. And I want families more to focus not on perfection and more on, supporting our kids, because I know that they're working hard and doing the best they can.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Such a warm message, and so needed and so appropriate as we move right into this next back to school year. And just want to say, a last thank you. I feel like I got a lot out of our conversation today. You were just fantastic, and really appreciate your thoroughness and your messages. And thanks for joining us, and to everyone. Thank you out there for listening and for sending in whatever questions you might have sent to us. Just as a reminder, if you are looking for additional medical advice, please visit providence.org, and please make sure to follow Providence on all social media platforms, Providence on Twitter, and under Providence Health System on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We thank you for attending this event today, and with that, we'll go ahead and close out.
Awesome. Thank you.